Hey, welcome. On this week's podcast, I'm asking the question, if I'm grateful and content with what I have, can I dream? Can I have more? Is it okay to want more? And I'm going to briefly go back to last week's podcast, and I got some wonderful emails about last week's podcast, and this is why I want to revisit. So really it's a part 2 of the paradox of happiness. I'm Steven Webb, and this is Stillness in the Storms, the podcast that helps you to think differently and helps you to find a little calmness when things around you are going wrong. I was really surprised by the amount of emails and the amount of attention that last week's podcast got. Maybe it was because I haven't done a podcast for a while, or maybe something else, but there was one email that really stood out to me. And I'm going to read part of it now. And it was from a lady called Amanda. And I love getting your emails. So please email me. Please head over to stevenwebb.com. And I will try to reply to every single email. I do get a lot. But I do try to reply to comments and emails and anything that comes my way. And I do take notice of all the reviews and everything that I wrote up. So really thank you for that. Okay, just before I go to that email, I just want to thank you for listening, and thank you for sharing this podcast. I really appreciate it. I've been doing this podcast now well over 12 months, and there's some weeks I miss it, and some weeks I'm not brilliantly fluent about doing it every single week, focused. I really should be, because I really enjoy doing it. It's just sometimes I don't know what you want to hear, or what I want to talk about, and I cannot get my words out. So sometimes I'll record a podcast and I don't even release it. I've got a lot of them. Perhaps I'll do Stillness in the Storms, the unreleased podcast at some point. That'd be good. Let me know if you want to hear some of them. They may be all right. I don't know. I'll let you be the judge of that. If you want to hear the Stillness in the Storms, the unreleased podcasts, let me know. But Amanda emailed me and it said, "I've just listened to your latest podcast, which was really good." And again, it was the podcast that says the paradox of happiness. And in this podcast, I was saying that really happiness isn't a good experience. Happiness isn't about getting something or anything like that. That's about having good experiences. Happiness is in the mundane, in the normal, the everyday things. Because if you're really down on your luck and having a hard time, just getting back to the normal is feeling happy again. And if you're at a concert or anything like that, it's a wonderful experience. But we often think that that's happiness. It's not. Happiness is really just there. It's what we are when we just relax. It's in this moment when we're not wanting or pushing away and things like that. So that's what that podcast was about. But if you haven't heard it, I urge you to go back and hear it. But you'll get the gist of this podcast. You won't need to go back to that one if you want to continue listening to this one. What Amanda writes is, "I understand that true happiness lies in being content. But if you are content, does that mean that you can't dream? What if you allowed yourself to feel so content it resulted in never trying to achieve things?" Oh boy, that's a good question. Or you couldn't see better ways of doing things as you were so content doing things as you always did them. That pull to better yourself, that pull to want more, that pull to, dream and build something in life. I'm the mayor of Truro now. Last year I was a counsellor. Before I was a counsellor, I was a meditation coach. So I'm doing different things. Every week when I release a podcast, I look at the numbers, how many people listen to it. And every week if it's growing, I feel a little better. So it's that strange, this is why it's a paradox really. It's that strangeness of, being happy with what we got, being grateful for what we already have, and that wanting more. And I really did wrestle with this for quite a while when I discovered Buddhism, because I thought Buddhism was all about not wanting. And I had it wrong. that I think I had it wrong. And very often I would ask some of my teachers and all that, it's like, well, I still got desires. I still got things I want to do, want to achieve. I want to write a book and I want to sell lots of copies. I want to change people's lives. But where do you level that with this state of just happy and being grateful for what you have? They're two different things, but they're the same thing as well. And I remember watching a TV program a number of years ago now, nearly 10 years ago. And they were doing up their small holding. And they had a nice little bungalow and they had a little yard and she had a couple of horses and they were kept in an old barn. And it was one of these programs that they go in and they do some work and they go back a few years later to see how it was. Well, they did an interview with the lady and she was saying that all she's ever wanted is a nice big barn for her horses. And hopefully she could have several more horses. And that would be it. That would be complete then. She's got everything she ever wanted. And it was really spoke at like, that was it. When she got there, that was it. And then they went back at nearly the end of the program, 5 minutes to go, and they went back and seen how they're doing. And this was 2 years on. Now then, of course, I don't know the whole story. And I'm somewhat judging and I'm somewhat using this example. But it went back and she'd had these built. She'd had an extra couple of horses. But things were really not that happy. She wasn't happy. Things had gone wrong in the relationship. Life had taken another turn. And she just wasn't content. The barns weren't being used at this point and things like that. And there may have been a number of things in her life that were separate to the barn. So, I don't know what's going on in the relationship and things like that. So there may have been a lot of things out of her control. But the point is that if you're not happy with what you have now, you won't be happy with what you get when you dream. And I think that's the difference. If I'm not happy with the number of viewers for my podcast this week, I'm not going to be happy next week because I will never be happy because it will never be enough. And I think this is where it comes down to the difference between grateful and recognizing that enough is enough. And even if I get more, that will be enough. And this is why it's so confusing. And it can change on a daily basis, on a minute-to-minute basis. Like if I get slightly hungry, I want some food. If I get cold, I want to put a top on. So I have desires, I want things. But it's recognizing that none of it will really bring you any kind of full contentment unless you're already content with what you have. And that's where it comes down to. You already have enough to be happy. You have enough to be content. You don't need anything more. And that's the difference. You don't want to be attached to that when I get this, I will be happy. And also you don't want to get attached to, well, I should be grateful. I've got more than most people in the world. I've got a better income. I've got a better job. I've got my health. I should be grateful. I shouldn't be unhappy. I shouldn't dream for more. No, that's a different thing again. See, really, there's nothing wrong with wanting and dreaming for more. It only comes down to your attachment of what you think it will give you. It's about attachment. And this is what the Buddha could not make it any more clearer. Attachment is suffering. So when I have that, or you can become attached to, well, I need to be grateful for what I have. I shouldn't want anything. Eckhart Tolle went down that route of giving away, ended up on a bench with a desire for a sandwich. And he said, I've still got desires and wants. Of course, you're human. That's wonderfully human to have desires and wants to better the world, to better your life. But it's recognizing that you cannot have any of those things right here and now. And the Buddha sums this up really, really well in this quote. And he says, health is the greatest gift, contentment the greatest wealth, faithfulness the best relationship. then of course health is the greatest gift. No amount of money in the world, no amount of anything will replace health. If you haven't got your health, you really don't have much. However, you can still have contentment. So contentment, the greatest wealth. And here's the reason why I say contentment is the greatest wealth is because if you're content with what you have, if you lose everything, you'll still be okay. And if you gain everything, you'll still be okay. Eckhart Tolle was asked on stage one day, someone said to him, it's okay for you. You're chilled and relaxed, you're happy and you're giggly up there and you're doing your thing. You've sold multiple books. You've got like 7 houses around the world. You're rich. And he's laughing in his way. Eckhart Tolle laughs. And that was not a bad impression, actually. I should do that. Eckhart Tolle impressions. I'm sure nobody's doing that in the world. But anyway, he asked, any wonder you're happy and content? And he laughs and he goes quiet for a minute and he replies, well, I've had nothing. And I know I can be content and happy with nothing. So therefore, yes, these things are nice to have, but I'm not attached to them. So that's the answer. And I know I've lost everything. If I get into another relationship, I know I can lose that relationship and be okay. I know I can go bankrupt and be okay. Have a downturn in my health and be okay. I can have an accident and be okay. And knowing that leaves you with a non-attachment to needing things. If you've got to protect what you have because you fear not being happy without it, then that's an attachment to what you have. Then you can be really grateful for what you have and be really content with what you have and still fear losing it. That's a similar attachment, but the opposite one to the attachment of wanting more, wanting to better your life. I want my daughter to grow up. I want to see her successful and happy in her own right. And I want to see her flourish with children and, flourish in a relationship. I want to grow old witnessing all that. But if I sit here right now thinking, that's what I need to be happy, then I won't be happy now. I won't be content now with what I have. So take a deep breath and be content with what you have right now. That's the greatest wealth. What does the Buddha say about contentment as well? In the one Buddhist tradition, contentment is not the fulfillment of what we want, but the understanding of what and how things are. Practicing contentment means using our conscious choice to see what's here and accept things as they are with gratitude. So that's the thing, right here, right now. Be grateful for this room, this ability to hear. Anything right now in your life, be grateful for that. And accept it the way it is, because that is the way it is. And that goes down to your desires and dreams and your wants to improve your life. Accept that. You're a human. You have desires and dreams. It's what's built everything. If we did not have desires and dreams, we would be still in caves now and we wouldn't have even started finger painting. It's what improves our lives. It's what improves society. But we shouldn't forgo our lives now for a life later. That's what it points to. You have everything in your life to be content, enough. When is enough to be happy? Can you ever have any more in this moment? No. You can never have any more money than you've got now, because in 10 years' time, you'll never have any more money than you have then, which will then be now. It's always now. It's always here. It's always what it is, and you cannot change what it is. So I guess the answer is, be careful to live your dream as if it can become a reality now, because then we become attached to and we miss what we have now. Does that make any sense? Because it kind of does when I think about it, and then I blurt the words out and it's like, yeah, no, maybe did it. I'm Steven Webb and this is Stillness in the Storms, and leave a review. Let me know. Head over to stevenwebb.com and send me a message. I do read all your emails. I try to read all the comments. People comment on all different platforms because my podcast is listened to on about 30 different platforms now. So if you really want me to see a comment and guarantee I'm going to see it, head over to stevenwebb.com and send me an email. There's a contact us or contact me button at the top right. Well, it's contact me because it's only me. So that form goes to me. Nobody else reads it. Please say hi. And if you want to support me like Cheryl did this week, thank you, Cheryl. I'm going to buy a book with your donations on buymeacoffee.com/Steven Webb. Really appreciate that. And if anybody else would like to do that, that's basically what I do, is I buy books or I buy things that helps me to record my podcast and get editing done and do more meditations and things like that. So thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for staying this long. Love you guys. Namaste.